Canada and the U.S., a friendship on the brink of a trade war. For years, Canada has been the United States' most reliable energy supplier, its largest trading partner, and an invisible force supporting North America's stability. However, recent developments have shaken this long-standing relationship. Former President Donald Trump's new tariffs have turned the dynamic between the two nations upside down.
The United States.
On the critical minerals and electricity we supply to the United States.
The head of the Canadian province of Ontario is, listen to this, threatening to cut off electricity exports to the United States.
1 month ago, Donald Trump paused the 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
What we told him from the beginning, which is that these tariffs hurt Americans. They hurt American companies.
But Canada has not taken this lightly. It has responded with a bold and unexpected threat. If necessary, we will cut off electricity and turn off the lights. This move is unlike anything North America has experienced before. The question now arises, is this pushing two close allies to the edge of a full-scale trade war? Is Canada really prepared to retaliate against Trump's tariff policies by restricting the flow of electricity to the U.S.? Once considered inseparable economic allies, these two nations are now testing each other's limits. A shocking announcement from Canada. On March 2nd, 2025, during a press conference in Ontario, Premier Doug Ford made headlines with a dramatic statement. If the Trump administration insists on these unfair tariffs, we will use our Trump card. Cutting off Canadian electricity exports is on the table. I'll do it with a smile on my face if necessary. His words sent shockwaves across North America. Canada is the U.S.'s primary supplier of electricity, exporting approximately 65 terawatt-hours in 2024, 90% of which went to the U.S. If Ottawa follows through on this threat, it could lead to widespread blackouts in some American states, particularly in the Northeast. Later that same day, a source close to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reinforced Ford's message, stating, "The American side should not underestimate Canada. Electricity is just one of the options we are considering in response to these unfair tariffs." This statement highlighted Canada's influence over the U.S. power supply. States like New York and Vermont are particularly vulnerable, as they heavily rely on hydroelectric power from Canada. According to official trade data, in 2023, the U.S. imported $2.3 billion worth of electricity from Canada, helping American families access low-cost, clean energy. If Canada disrupts the supply, electricity bills in affected states could skyrocket, and some areas could even face shortages. Trump's response: no backing down. On March 3rd, a White House spokesperson addressed the issue, stating, "Canada is our close ally and friend. These tariffs were imposed purely for national security and fair trade reasons. We are closely monitoring threats of retaliation, but the United States will not back down." Trump, scheduled to address Congress the next day, remained firm in his stance, arguing that tariffs are our most effective weapon to protect U.S. interests. Despite warnings from his advisors about potential power shortages in the Midwest, Trump pushed forward, announcing that reciprocal tariffs will be imposed on April 2nd against any country that retaliated against U.S. tariffs. Can Canada really cut off U.S. electricity? While Ontario Premier Doug Ford's words were strong, experts believe a total blackout is unlikely in the short term. Canada and the U.S. have built a deeply interconnected energy grid over decades, and shutting it down overnight will be nearly impossible. However, Canada could impose limited supply restrictions, reduce hydroelectric output, or introduce intermittent cutbacks, all of which could still have significant economic consequences for the U.S. Cutting off electricity exports would not only harm the U.S., but also cost Canada billions in lost revenue. In 2024, Canada's electricity exports generated between $2.3 billion and $2.5 billion, a critical income source for provinces like Ontario and Quebec. If the crisis escalates, Ottawa may decide that losing revenue is a price worth paying to pressure Washington into lifting tariffs. But this is more than just electricity. Sources close to Ford suggest that Canada may also restrict the export of critical raw materials, such as nickel, steel, and other industrial supplies, products that are essential to U.S. manufacturing. If a trade war escalates, both nations would suffer, creating a lose-lose scenario for industries on both sides of the border. The root of the conflict: Trump versus Trudeau. This isn't the first time tensions between Trump and Trudeau have flared. Trump has long viewed Canada as a trade rival rather than a close ally. His past business ventures in Canada, including failed hotel projects in Toronto and Vancouver, reportedly left him bitter. Additionally, their personal relationship has been rocky. Trump once called Trudeau very dishonest and weak after a G7 meeting. For Canada, the issue is not just economic, but deeply political. When Trump imposed 25 to 30% tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and agricultural products in early 2025, Trudeau responded sharply. This is unacceptable. Our largest trading partner, our close friend, the United States, must immediately withdraw these heavy tariffs. Otherwise, we will retaliate in different sectors. Canada's strategy appears to be a mix of economic retaliation and political maneuvering. By threatening U.S. electricity supply, Canada is trying to pressure American voters into questioning Trump's trade policies. If power shortages drive up consumer costs, Americans may start asking, why are we punishing Canada if it hurts us too? A North American trade crisis? Canada is not alone in resisting Trump's tariffs. Mexico has also been targeted, with 25% tariffs on its exports. Now, both of America's neighbors are fighting back. Canada with energy restrictions, and Mexico with possible agricultural and auto industry disruptions. If this trade war continues to escalate, it could destabilize North America's entire economic framework, potentially disrupting supply chains and raising prices for businesses and consumers alike. Trump remains adamant that trade wars are easy to win, but history suggests otherwise. If Canada follows through with its energy threats, American industries could suffer just as much as Canadian exporters. While some believe the standoff will end in a compromise, others fear it could spiral into a prolonged economic battle. What happens next? March 2nd, Doug Ford issues a warning. Canada is ready to cut electricity exports. March 3rd, Trudeau's government confirms all options are on the table. March 4th, Trump addresses Congress, defending the tariffs and vowing to stand firm. April 2nd, the U.S. plans to impose retaliatory tariffs on any country that fights back. Will Canada really turn off the lights in the U.S.? Can North America's closest allies find a diplomatic resolution before economic damage spreads? Or will this trade war escalate into something far worse? For now, we wait and watch. The fate of this historic partnership hangs in the balance.